Hey, it's Dr. Amanda with Straightsmile Solutions, straightsmilesolutions.com. Let's talk a little bit more about, this is my title, Little Asian Faces, aka small SNAs, into K-pop faces, or K-pop superstars, without the musical skills, at least orthodontically, without jaw surgery. And there's a story behind this. Actually, this actually started earlier this year. I was dropping my son off at MIT. Of course, almost all Asians there, which is fine because my kids are half Asian, which is fine for anyone. Who cares? I'm not saying anything about that. I'm just saying, interestingly enough, as many colleges are, universities are. And there was this one like super handsome Korean kid on the floor. And the one thing that people were commenting is that he had, quote, white people teeth, or they used a different term. But like the dentist, I guess, wasn't in it was some Asian communities. I feel like, and I can speak to this just because I am in an Asian community where it's predominantly Asian and the doctors are predominantly Asian, and a lot of the parents are first generation and maybe don't feel comfortable with making this is a huge concern. Like, it's come up many times. They don't feel comfortable having kids maybe too toothy. Like, there's definitely a concern about being too bucky or too flared or too full or having too full of a face. They feel that it just doesn't look good on Asian faces, what they said. I'm not saying it does or doesn't. I completely disagree, because this was not the first time I've seen. It was just stunning. Like, his giant broad smile, on like a K-pop looking head face already. It was like, goodness, this guy looks like a K-pop superstar. And so everyone was calling him K-pop superstar because of his nice orthodontic work. And they were like, "Ooh, where'd you get your braces done?" So that kind of thing is almost like an instant, because it really made something click in my head, because I'm like, what a marketing opportunity. I don't know how you market that. I mean, you market it just exactly. That mom like literally referred like 10 people to the orthodontist. Granted, this kid was in college, right? So, and no one there was from that part of town. But it did come up in a conversation. I definitely asked. I was like, "Goodness, where'd you get his ortho done?" And it turns out I knew the person, which was even funnier. I'm not gonna say what state or anything like that, but I was like, I can see that. I said, "Well done. This looks really good." I said, "He's gonna have a great airway and everything. It looks awesome. It looks great on his face." And then I started thinking, huh. And so then I had two doctors ask me in the last week specifically about this. One of them was Asian, one of them was not, but was in more an area with a lot more Asian kids, and it definitely came up. So we were talking about, and they were less familiar with the culture and the stuff I was telling you about. And I said, "Yeah, you have to be kind of sensitive. You can't." I said, "You can't make." We can't, in Hawaii we call them haole, is the word for Caucasian faces. Like, any foreigner is a haole. So and I'm a haole. So it means like light colored skin, which is fine. But I said, here, a lot of people don't want to look haole. Like, it's not something they consider attractive. And you can't assume that the norms that we're learning in all these videos and all these classes, that is haole. Basically, it's foreigner, type of face. So people might not want that kind of face. And honestly, if you're not delicate about how you say it, you could really offend a patient. So I feel comfortable talking about this, obviously, because it's been discussed copiously in our house, and my husband's a dentist and stuff like that. So we're not uncomfortable. If you're comfortable listening to what I'm saying, I apologize. That wasn't my intent. I'm just being super transparent. It's a conversation that will probably happen especially if you're doing anything, but mostly growth and development of kids. They want to know, well, how are you growing their face, right? And what is it going to look like? And the problem is, unless you finished a few faces, they're not going to know. So just an idea. But yeah, specifically what the issue was is that a lot of, especially, Eastern Asia, and I'm not talking about, Southeast Asia, I'm talking about East Asian, your Korean, your Japanese, and some parts of Chinese, are going to have a very small SNA. It's where the upper jaw is just set back. And so the problem is, if you have this and the lower is normal, then of course you're going to have an underbite, right? And that's going to be a class 3. That's easy to fix. We can go ahead and do protraction face mask. And that makes sense. You got to do that, right? To fix the bite. You're not going to like pull a lower jaw back. That's stupid. It's going to look terrible, and they're going to have, less tongue position. So, that's an easy fix. That makes sense. But what about the situations where mom comes in and it's like, I want my kid to have a fuller face. I want my teeth to have fuller teeth, and they're class 1. But what if they're, okay, then I'm not going to create a problem to fix a problem. So I guess the question was, can we create a more fuller face, fuller teeth, everything, fuller jaws? I mean, I don't have a problem with using orthotropics. My goodness, use the orthotropics protocol with and Simon Wong's posture protocol. I mean, there's ways to do this without like doing orthodontics, just with posture and diet. That I'm all about. Matter of fact, start doing that at age 1, 2. Start doing that. You can do that anytime. But the effectiveness of that at 8, 9, when we be doing ortho, is probably minimal to no, because the upper jaw is pretty much done growing anyways. All we can do is stimulate it to grow more. It's not going to grow on its own. just with diet is what I'm getting at. So that is why it's a conversation. They were like, what can we do protraction face mask? Essentially creating a class 2 bite by pulling with a big SNA. So let's say we had a normal SNA, which is what, like 82. I mean, depending on the age and race and stuff like that. But okay, and then they wanted to create a Bimax. Well, Bimax, yeah. They wanted to create like a protrusive maxilla on purpose by using a protraction face mask. Okay, well, I mean, that's kind of like how BioBlock works. I haven't taken those courses, but from my understanding, that's kind of how that works. That's the whole point behind the orthotropics. I'm talking about the orthotropics, diet, posture, fine. I don't care. There's no risk on that. I'm talking specifically about taking the upper jaw, moving it forward to a more advanced position, then stimulating the lower jaw to catch up with it. Therefore, creating almost a Bimax fuller face from someone that was retrusive, or because if you have two retrusive jaws, what if you have retrusive maxilla and retrusive mandible, retrusive over retrusive, and they just have a small airway? And what if there's airway complications? Is that okay to do? I don't see why not. I mean, it's a bit of a gray area, because what happens if you get started with it and you're creating a problem, right? By moving the upper jaw forward, and now they have an overjet that they didn't have. And what if they decide they don't want to be compliant to fix the lower? Well, that would be really bad, right? That's a liability thing. So to me, that's like, okay, if it was my own kid, sure, I'll do that. I don't know that I would do that on another kid. It could get litigious. It could get messy. It's still kind of a little different than regular orthodontists do. It's not wrong. And if the patient was compliant, it would actually be amazing if that's what everybody wanted. But what if they decided they didn't like the fullness of the face, and now you took something that was, quote, within normal limits and moved him forward, and they thought it was too full? Then what? Do you have to pay for the jaw surgery to move him back? I don't know, because there's no way to move that back once you grow a jaw. So sorry, this had a lot of information, in that video. So just keep that in mind. And then also, I'm going to bring up something super, super tiny. And this again, take this with a grain of salt. But, a lot of times, first generation Asian boys, I happen to be married to one, maybe not first, but, they can be interesting to deal with, especially little boys, like around 6, 7, 8. I'm not going to say why, but those of you who know, it's no different than Southeast Asian or anything else. They're just treated special in the community and in the home. And, tornado siren, tsunami siren, if you can hear it outside. There's no tsunami. It's just testing because it's the first day of the month. But anyways, it can be a compliance major nightmare with a lot of kids. Not all, but when they come in, look and see who's answering the questions. Is the kid answering the questions confidently, or is mom answering for them? That would be the biggest red flag for me. Nope. If mom's answering for them, we are not doing ortho on this kid. Not ready. If the kids cannot answer their own questions, if they can't seem to comprehend, if they can't seem to answer basic questions, if they look scared, if they're looking to the mom for answers, if mom is overtaking the conversation, no, not taking that kid. And honestly, that would be kind of my position for any phase 1 case. I mean, I'd want to see just... And if mom is making excuses for the kid, oh, heck no. Honestly, if I point out, hey, it looks like we have some plaque around these teeth, maybe we could work better on hygiene, and mom, and if she goes, oh no, he's the best brusher, oh no, he never eats sugar, that is for me, goodbye. Like, I'll see them, oh, you know what? Unfortunately, his hygiene is not quite the standards that I like to start on. I'm very concerned. And then you talk about your concerns, why you wouldn't want to start that, And usually they'll be fine, but I mean, if they're still making excuses, I would let that patient go. I mean, I know everybody wants to get starts, but especially with ortho, because it's almost like a marriage and not just like a quick date. You're with someone for 18, 12, 24 months and a lot of appointments. Unless this patient is ready, you're going to have a not fun time in your practice. So tons of information, but hopefully I don't get canceled for this. My intent was not that. It was just people need to know, and they've been asking. All right, thanks.